Yes, you can enjoy an incredible frosted lemon curd cake that is gluten-free, grain-free, and nut-free. Unlike some typical cassava cakes that can taste dense and gummy, my lemon cake is light, fluffy, and flavorful with sour cream, applesauce, and avocado oil. Then we're poking holes in the cake and filling it with the easiest and quickest fresh lemon curd. And then it's topped with a light and tangy whipped cream cheese frosting, and it's all naturally sweetened with cane sugar. To make this fresh lemon curd, we're going to start with 2 lemons. And first we're going to zest the outer yellow part of the peel. And we don't want to go too deep into the white area because that's where it becomes more bitter. Zesting 2 lemons will give us about 2 tablespoons of lemon zest. Next we're going to cut our lemons in half and then juice them into a bowl. I love the smell of fresh lemon juice, but you will also quickly discover if you have any cuts on your fingers. We only need 1/4 cup of lemon juice, and I was able to get 1/4 cup just from juicing 1 lemon. You could go ahead and juice both lemons and then keep any extra lemon juice in your fridge for future recipes. So in our bowl with 1/4 cup of lemon juice, we're going to add our 2 tablespoons of lemon zest, 2 eggs, and 1/2 cup of cane sugar. You could also use regular sugar if you like. Now we'll simply whisk this together. Now many lemon curd recipes will call for just using the egg yolk, but after many taste tests with my family, we prefer using the whole egg that has both the yolk and the white. Not only do we prefer the flavor, but it also cooks up faster. Now to thicken our lemon curd, we're going to bring a medium saucepan to low heat. Now we'll go ahead and pour in our mixture. Now by cooking them over a low heat, we are going to be cooking the eggs, but just short of scrambling them. So we'll want to use a spatula and keep the mixture moving for several minutes until it's nice and thick. Now depending on what you're using your curd for, you can decide whether or not to add a teaspoon of some tapioca flour or tapioca starch. And this is just going to help thicken it up a little bit more. So after about 2 or 3 minutes, you can see that our sauce is already beginning to thicken. And we'll know it's ready when we can drag a little path through our pan with our spatula, and when the sauce is thick enough to coat our spatula. That looks perfect. So I can go ahead and turn off my heat, and then we can add 1/4 cup of butter. And then we'll just stir that in and let it melt. Now you can use the curd as is, but I recommend straining it first. And this is going to help get rid of any little bits of scrambled egg or maybe seeds or maybe pulp that was in your lemon. So we're just taking a sieve and placing it over a bowl and then pouring our sauce right in. And we'll use our spatula to push it through. And then we're left with just a little bit of pulp and scrambled egg bits. And then I'll take my spatula underneath the sieve and make sure I scrape off any extra of the smooth curd. And now we have this smooth, delicious curd that we'll go ahead and set aside. This recipe will make 1 8-inch round or square cake or 2 6-inch cakes. I'm using my 8 by 8-inch square pan. I'm going to start by lining it with some parchment paper. I'm just going to place my parchment paper down, put my pan on top, fold both edges, flip my paper over, press it down inside the pan, score all the edges, and then generously spray it with some nonstick spray. To make this super easy cake batter, we're going to add 3 eggs, 1/2 cup of cane sugar. You could also use regular sugar. 1/3 cup of oil, and avocado oil is my favorite. 1/4 cup of applesauce for some added sweetness. 1/4 cup of sour cream for some additional fat and moisture. 3 tablespoons of our lemon juice. 1 tablespoon of lemon zest. 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And for some additional flavor, 1/4 teaspoon of almond extract. Then we'll simply mix these together until well combined. Now for our dry ingredients, we're going to add 1 cup of cassava flour. And then I have 1½ teaspoons of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And then we'll whisk these together just until combined. And then we have this very beautiful and silky and lemony smelling batter. Now we'll simply pour it into our prepared cake pan. Now we'll give it a little jiggle as well as a few taps just to remove any air bubbles. Now this is ready to go into a 350-degree oven for 25 to 28 minutes, or until a toothpick comes out clean and the tops are just barely starting to turn a light golden brown. Well, here's our beautiful lemon cake that just came out of the oven, and you can see that it's just starting to turn a real light golden brown around on the top. So it is perfect. We have a slight little crack here on the top that I promise will not show. Since we're making this as a sheet cake, we need our curd to get deep down into the cake so that it's not just sitting on top of the cake where it could cause our cream cheese whipped cream layer to slide off. So we're literally going to poke some holes into the cake and then let our curd seep down inside. So I'm just going to take the end of my spatula here and just go around about every inch or 1.5 inches and poke some nice holes. Now this might seem counterintuitive, but I promise it turns out great and your cake will not be sad. But you may not want to let your toddler see you do this to give them any ideas for future cakes. And cassava flour makes for a nice firm cake texture, so you don't have to be concerned that you're smashing down your cake. Well, now that we've properly aerated our cake, we can go ahead and add our curd. So I'm just going to go ahead and start pouring it right into the center of my cake. And I'm going to start with just using half of my batch because that might be enough. And then I'm just going to slowly push the curd around on top of the cake. And I'll do my best to let it soak into those holes before it gets to the outer edge of the cake, because I want that curd to be down inside the cake and not necessarily seeping over the edge of the cake in between the cake and the pan. And now that the curd is pretty evenly distributed, I'm going to take the end of my spatula and then I'll go back over some of those holes and just help encourage the curd to go down inside. Now that I've opened up a bunch of those holes, I'll go back and just smooth the curd over the top, which will push it down even further. Now, as you can see, I didn't use all of my curd, but don't worry, this will not go to waste. I'll be putting this in a jar into my fridge, and then I'll be enjoying it with some future recipes, if some of my teenagers don't get to it first. Now, our cake is still warm, and we need it to be cool before we put our frosting on top. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this into my freezer just to help speed up that process while we make our whipped cream cheese frosting. Now, to make our whipped cream cheese frosting, we're going to start with our whipping cream. And you can decide either to use some store-bought whipping cream that's already whipped, or you can whip your own like I am. So I've just added 1 cup of heavy whipping cream to the cup that comes with my immersion blender. And then I have the whisk attachment. So I'm just going to turn this on high and then whip it until it forms the stiff peaks. All right, well, it has doubled in size and has those nice stiff peaks. So I'll go ahead and set this aside. Now in our mixing bowl, we want to add 8 ounces of cream cheese, or 1 block. Then we'll add 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now I'm just going to mix this on high until it's light and fluffy, and it does really help if the cream cheese is brought to room temperature before you begin. Well, now that our cream cheese is nice and smooth, we'll go ahead and add our powdered sugar. And I like to use powdered cane sugar, but I do recommend sifting it first because sometimes it can be a little bit clumpy. So I'll go ahead and add 1 cup of powdered cane sugar. And then I'll slowly mix this in until it's well combined. Ooh, that looks perfect. Now we can add in our whipped cream. Now we just want to mix this on low just until they're incorporated. And now is an excellent time to test the sweetness level. You can add some more powdered sugar if you'd like it to be a little bit sweeter. I like it to be just sweet enough, and for me, this is perfect. And since none of my kids are home right now, I call the beaters. So I took the cake out of the freezer, and I can tell by feeling the bottom that it is nice and cool. So now we can add our frosting to the top, and then we'll gently spread this around. And I'm going to use my frosting spatula just so I have a little more control. Now this might look like a ton of frosting, but I promise it's going to taste nice and light and refreshing. And when we slice our cake, this will give us that nice, beautiful white layer of frosting on top. And you can decide if you want to make it really smooth across the top, or if you want to have some really cute little swirls. I'm a little partial to the swirls with a little curl on top. Maybe that's influenced by my curly hair, but that's the style I'm going to go with. Well, this looks gorgeous, and now it's ready to go back into our fridge for about an hour or 2, or until that cream cheese layer has a chance to set. But I have a piece from one of my sample cakes that I made yesterday that I can enjoy now. That is so good. Honestly, the only word I can think of to do this justice is divine. It is so delicious. As soon as you bite in, you get that soft, tender crumb of the cake that has so much flavor and moisture to it. And then you bite through those ribbons of lemon curd that are so good. And then you get that cream cheese frosting that just wraps it all together and is the perfect balance to the more intense, sweet and tangy flavor of the curd and that gentle sponge of the cake. And I love knowing that I'm eating something with clean, natural ingredients, which means I'm going to feel just as good even after I eat it. But of course, this is a treat and does need to be eaten in moderation. And I love being able to share these creatively healthier recipes so that you can enjoy them too. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today in my kitchen, and I've included a link to the full recipe, and it's in the video description below, which takes you to my website, gentletummy.com. And I also invite you to like and subscribe to my channel. And if you know someone else who you think would love this recipe, please share this video with them. And I cannot wait to have you hang out with me again in my kitchen.